hurting there. So that wraps it up for the quarterbacks. We're going to move on to the running backs now. Week 3. Atop of the rankings is pretty chalk, right? Barkley, Geis, Freeman. I like Jalen Moore to get back on track this week. You got to throw Phillip Lindsay in there. I think Ito Smith even gets back up on track this week as well. But number 8, you got to look at Jonathan Taylor. Okay, Jonathan Taylor, Wisconsin. After last week and the uncertainty of whether or not Bradrick Shaw's going to make it back from injury, I think you have to leave Taylor up there. I mean, Taylor's going to carry the load more than James, it seems, if Bradrick Shaw is out. And I don't know. I mean, look, whenever the injuries are a concern, guys, you never just want to throw a guy in there without being completely clear of what's going on or having a clear understanding of what's going on with their injury. So, like I said before, if you have Bradrick Shaw, and there's not a crystal clear word on whether or not he's going to play, you have to bench him. You cannot risk taking a goose egg for a running back this week when you have other options on your bench. And yeah, their ceiling may not be as high as Bradrick Shaw, but you're at least better off getting points than taking a chance and getting none. So that's my tip. I say that every year, and I offer that, but it's true. Demarie Crockett, number 10, Missouri. I think, he left last week's game with an injury. I think he would have had a big game last week. I think he's going to have a big game this week. I think he's their best offensive player. And Drew Lock obviously struggled last week when they played South Carolina. I think Demarie Crockett is the player to own on Missouri. I think they feed him big time this week against Purdue. I look for a big week for Demarie Crockett this week at home against Purdue. Number 12, Devin Singletary. I threw this out last week to some of you guys, and I don't know if it made it to you all, but Devin Singletary was one of those guys that we had on the bench last week, and I was really hoping he'd have a bad performance because I was hoping he'd land on a waiver wire for a bunch of people and then them be, sneaky and go ahead and snatch them up. For those of you that have Devin Singletary, I'm glad that didn't happen because it probably encouraged you to keep him. Devin Singletary is one of those players that I mentioned at the top of the show about to take off as the Owls move into conference play. And this week get Bethune-Cookman. So I think that's good for his chances. And Rashad Penny at number 13, that may be a surprise. They're facing Stanford this week. They do get him at San Diego State. But I have to tell you, look what USC did to Stanford last week. I'm not saying San Diego State's offense is USC, but I'll tell you, man, if there's one guy right now that I wish I had that I didn't rank high enough, and we had him ranked high at the beginning of the year, is Rashad Penny. I mean, boy, he is just picking up where Donnell Pumphrey left off last year, and he's churning out the yards. And I think he's worth a start this week at home against Stanford. And then let's go down to number 31, Rockwell Olmstead. I think that's a player on the tipping point for a lot of you guys as well. A lot of emails on him. What's going on with Rockwell Olmstead? Well, I wish I knew, but I do think he gets back on track this week. And if he doesn't, I do think we have a concern. But there's too much talent there with Olmstead, and I think you've got to get him in the lineup this week. He's got a really good matchup against Massachusetts. I think you get Rockwell Olmstead in your lineup, and I think he pays off for you. They're ranked at number 31. Warren Wand, number 40. I think if there's one player on this list right now that has a higher ceiling, the ceiling is higher than where he's ranked, it's Warren Wand. I mean, Arkansas State is hosting Arkansas Pine Bluff, and I think Warren Wand has potential to have a 200-yard game in this matchup. I'm worried that Arkansas State gets too far ahead, maybe gets too far ahead in the passing game, and they pull Warren Wand. The only reason Wand's not higher in the rankings this week is just, quite frankly, I'm concerned a little bit about the competition and him getting yanked early without getting a lot of touches. Number 45, Miles Gaskin. This is a surprise to a lot of people, but Gaskin ranked 45 because he's just not getting the touches that that many of us hoped that he would get. So that really concerns me for Miles Gaskin moving forward. I think he's going to get a lot more touches as we get into conference play, but right now he's not getting them. And if he's only going to get 10 to 12 to 15 touches in a game right now, I don't see him getting more than that against Fresno State. Quite frankly, I'd be surprised if he got more than 15 based on what I've seen so far and the opponents that he's already played. I think Miles Gaskin is one of those guys where you have a really good running back And then you've got Miles Gaskin and another couple of running backs on your team. And it's like, do I take the guy that's got a boom or bust week, or do I take the safe route and security of Miles Gaskin, who's probably going to give me 100 yards and a touchdown, but I really, at this particular point in the season, can't count on him to give me much more than that? And my answer is, I'm taking the security. Give me Miles Gaskin his 100 yards, his 110 yards, and his touchdown. I'll make it out somewhere else. But I don't want to throw somebody else in the lineup where I think I have a chance of getting 150 and 2 touchdowns, but I may get soured on and get 60 yards with no touchdowns. I'm taking the security, put Gaskin in there, and building around him. And then number 62, Chris Warren for Texas. And a lot of people email me after the rankings come up, Warren at 62. Look what USC has given up so far, and that's great. And I know USC has given up some chunks on the ground, and I'm good with that. And I know what Texas did last week, but they did it against San Jose State. I still have the picture of what Texas did against Maryland in my head. And when I look at San Jose State and I look at USC, the difference between what I think, in this whole correlation, is that Maryland jumped up on Texas, and Texas was playing catch up. Texas was playing ahead of San Jose State. That was a game I saw Warren doing well. He was ranked a little higher last week, I believe. My concern for Texas this week is that USC does what Maryland did. And USC goes up by 14, maybe 21 points, and then Texas is just flinging it around again. And Warren at that particular point becomes neutralized. So I think with Warren and Porter this week, even though the potential is there, Texas has to keep the game close. And if they don't, you have a chance to not have a good game by Warren and Kyle Porter. So that's my thoughts on Chris Warren, ranked at number 63 this week. And you know what? Patrick Laird, number 56 for Cal. We have him ranked 56. I think he has potential to be a little higher. And the reason why I think that is because of the Ole Miss defense. And I'm going to touch on the Ole Miss defense in our start bench, so be sure to catch back for that. But I think you'll see why Patrick Laird may be a better play than his number 56 ranking this week. Now, player that I'm watching this week as well, there's 2 players that I have my eyes on. I'm really interested to see what Jackson Kincaid, the running back for Nevada, can do. Nevada's played a couple of decent opponents, and I'm curious to see what they do against really inferior competition, or what seems to be inferior competition. I've really got my eye on that Nevada offense this week, and particularly the wide receivers as well, McLean Mannix and Wyatt Demps. But they're starting the freshman quarterback this week, so I think Nevada is under the microscope this week. But as far as running backs go, I'm also keeping an eye on Duke Catalan, number 76. And you know what? They're playing Rice. And this was not a matchup a couple of weeks ago where I thought Duke Catalan would be ranked against Rice. But I have to tell you, Dylan Burton's getting carries over there. Obviously, Houston's still going to throw it around. I thought this would be Duke Catalan's year. I thought they'd run the offense through him after one game. And that's all we have to go off of so far. I'm not sure I see that right now. And until I see it, we can't rank him that high up on the list right now. So that takes care of the running backs right now, guys. I'm going to shift my position. I've got some light coming in here. And we're going to go ahead and take you through the wide receivers, week 3. So let me get this adjusted, and we'll